Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to my introductory lecture for INFOST 780-201. And INFOST 780 is XML for libraries. This is the spring 2017 semester. I'm recording this on January 22nd, so we're just about to start our first week. It starts tomorrow, January 23rd. And what we're looking at here on the screen is a weekly schedule page from our weekly schedule, which you're probably already somewhat familiar with, but I thought I would try to use this as a starting point for our getting to know the course. So I created the weekly schedule application probably 4 semesters ago, something like that, as a way to get over the less than appealing content management features of D2L and the content management features of another courseware learning management system that I use down at the University of Illinois called Moodle. And one of the problems that I have with these systems is that they don't give me everything that I would like to get. And this application, although it takes a little bit of time to go to it, I think is better suited to the job that I'd like you guys to be doing in managing the work in the course. One of the things that I do like is that we always have the question in each week is what's due this week? What do I have to do? And are there meetings or are there deadlines this week? And that's how I've organized the information. So each course has an index page. So if you go to the index page, you'll see all the weeks of the course. There are 17 weeks in the spring 2017 semester. The last week is a week that's taken up with exams and graduation. So it's not going to be a week in which I'm going to be teaching or that you're going to be handing things in. And of course, week 9 is spring break. Now, right now, in our weekly schedule application, I think I've just got up week 1. And you can go from week to it. Oh, first of all, just to be clear, on the index page, how do you go to a week? Well, you click on the week number. Okay, so this takes us to week 1. You can navigate from week to week by clicking on next or previous. You'll see that I don't currently have any detail for week 2, and that's true all the way till we get to week 9. And I know it's happening in week 9 for sure because it is spring break week, spring recess. And I don't have the rest of the data in here at this very minute for the rest of the weeks until we get to week 17, which I know for sure we're not using. So that's final exams and graduation. I do have a pretty detailed version of the schedule from a prior semester that I'm in the process of translating over to make everything be accurate for our current semester. And I'll be getting it all up within the next week. Whenever I change things or add things to the weekly schedule, I'll send you information to let you know that it's been added or changed. So I always post news in the news on D2L, and then I take a copy of the news item on D2L and I send that out via email on D2L. So you should be able to, just by monitoring your email, know when you've got to go and see what's new or what has changed. Okay? And especially when you're waiting for a video to go up or something like that, hopefully you can just keep your eye on your email on your smartphone, and you're going to be able to know when something's there for you to go use. Okay, let's go back to week one and talk about the schedule for week one. Probably best to go to the index page, I guess. Okay, so we're here in week one. And the first thing I want to mention is I'm going to be doing every Monday evening from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to be holding a session, an optional session called Online Office Hours. Now, I've been doing these for a couple of years now, and I've called them a series of things. Okay. Initially, I called them discussion groups, and then I called them drop-in sessions. Now I call them online office hours. Okay. Um, we do the same thing no matter what. I've been exploring the possibility that the name of the session will make it more appealing to certain folk. Um, I feel a little cheated by the design that we have for distance learning. Um, if all we do is I record lectures and tutorials and send them out to you, and the only feedback that I hear from you is in your forum posts, I feel shortchanged. I really do. I'd like to hear your voice. I'd like to hear what's on your mind. I'd like to have conversations in a more spontaneous way than that. Okay? So these online office hours are my way to create that possibility. So you can come by to discuss really anything that has to do with the course. Um, in this course, we have coding assignments, and we've got one even in the first week. So that's due at the end of the first week. In the next online office hours, the one that we're going to have a week from January 23rd, so it's at January 30th, um, we're going to go over solutions to that first coding assignment. Here's your opportunity to see what other people did or to show what you did and say, well, I really wasn't sure about this part. What do you think about this part? Um, I often show my solution, especially when it's a little different from what the one or two solutions we've seen from uh, students are. So here's a place where you really get a lot of feedback on the coding assignments. That's your primary feedback avenue. Um, Now, I realize that not everybody can come to a particular online office hour, so we record them. So one of the things that you'll see up in this first box, we have online office hours, and then we have other resources. That's for the recording, and the recording will generally go up the next day. So we do these on GoToMeeting. There's a link for the session. Um, GoToMeeting has a recording feature, and I typically turn that into YouTube, and I post it up the next day. Okay, so apart from online office hours, what do we have? Well, the week starts on Monday and it ends on Sunday. So Sunday evening at the very end of the day, 11:55 p.m., your assignments are due. So on Sundays we have a weekly assignments deadline. So you can see we have a bunch of things for that. We've got the topics, a computing setup, required readings, required recordings, other resources, coding assignments due, and class participation assignments due. So again, if you want to know what's due in week one, just go to the page for week one and look at the various boxes, and you'll know what's due exactly when. Um, let's talk about a couple of things here. In terms of topics for week one, we've got the introductory ones. That's fine. We're trying to get you up to speed on what XML is. The other thing we're trying to do is we're trying to introduce you to the software tool that we're going to be using, the Oxygen XML editor. And so one of your tasks for the week is to get that installed. You're due a license code, which is available on D2L, that will allow you to install the Oxygen XML editor on your computer, and to use that for certainly at least the rest of the semester and probably a little bit longer. This actually might be good for a year, which is be good. Okay, so what are the readings? Well, the syllabus, which we'll go through in a minute, that's part of this introductory lecture. In readings in two of our textbooks, in Cohen Han, Chapter 1, XML, What is it? And in Harold and Means, Chapter 1, Introducing XML. So these should both give you a good kind of introduction to the Harold and Means to XML generally, and in Cohen Han to what XML is, and a little bit more in relation to the library world. Required recordings. The first one, which you can see isn't up there yet, is the one I'm making right now. But the other ones are all up there. So there's a lecture on chapters 1, what is XML and how is it used. And there are 2 tutorials on installing the Oxygen XML editor, one for installing it under Windows and one for installing it under OS X. Then we've got lecture slides that go with the lecture video, What is XML and how is it used, if you'd like to have those. That's under other resources. The coding assignment due is resume 1. So what we're going to have you do is create a resume using the XML dialect of HTML. So I'm kind of assuming that you know HTML, okay? And if you don't know HTML, you'll learn it during this assignment because we're not using a lot of HTML features. We're using HTML and CSS, the style sheet language, and we're really only using the rudimentary structures of those. And so even if you don't already have experience with HTML, you'll be able to get through this just fine. And the goal is to create a simple XML document in a dialect of XML, which we call these tag sets XML application. So the XML application is XHTML. It is the XML compliant version of HTML. And we think that should be pretty easy because you should be able to understand a resume. You should be able to understand, you should have basic familiarity with HTML. And even if you don't, it's not that much of a hardship. Okay, so that's that. There are instructions. There's a tutorial video where I do it. So if you want to watch me do it and kind of follow along, all's fair. Okay, and then there's a grading rubric for that assignment as well. And the very last part is class participation, which primarily in these assignments is posting to forums. So there is an introduce yourself forum And I'm expecting you to put a post in there introducing yourself to all of us so that we will know about you and your background and what your expectations are for the course. So, this kind of a page will be available for every week in the semester. It is our go to place for information about the course. Um, and anytime I change it or add to it, I will be posting news on D2L News and sending you that same information in an email. Now, I just want to point out because I do actually change the schedule from time to time. Um, this particular weekly schedule application has a problem that some browsers want to cache its pages. And so you might go to a week that I've recently changed. Like, let's go to week 2, okay? And let's say I'm going to come back in the next 24 hours and put in weeks 2, 3, 4, etc. I probably won't get them all up in one day, but I'll get a lot of them up. So if in fact you've already visited this page, depending upon your browser, you might come to this page again and it might look like it does right here, okay? You need to be able to go up and refresh the page to make sure that you're looking at the current page. Now, I hadn't actually changed that page. In most browsers, I've solved this, but in my favorite browser, Safari on Mac OS, this is a problem child. So when you go to a weekly schedule page, just refresh it just to make sure that you've got the latest version. Okay, I apologize for that, but that's just the nature of this application and its current stage of evolution. All right, so let's go take a look at the syllabus. Okay, so the course is XML for Libraries. We're in spring 2017. It's online, so it's 780 section 201. I'm Kevin Trainer. I am your instructor for this. I've been teaching. I've been using XML for since let's see, 2001, something like that. So since the early days, XML's been around since 1998, so I've been at it for a long time. I've been teaching XML since pretty shortly thereafter, 2004, something like that, 2003, so 13 or 14 years, so a long time. And I've been teaching it here at UWM. This will be the third year in which I'm teaching. No, this would be the fourth year in which I'm teaching it. So pretty good. I have an office at SOAS. It's on the main floor that we have there, the third floor. I'm there typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've worked from home the other days. I live in the Chicago area. I've given you guys my mobile number. You can call me. If I can't talk to you then, we'll set up a time that we can talk. I find that works out pretty well for people. Another thing that we do for these online courses that has worked out well is that we'll use the GoToMeeting platform. I have another link to a place where we can meet just the two of us. And if it turns out that you need some individual help and we need to be able to look at your computer or this or that, we can arrange to meet at a particular time on GoToMeeting. And we can each put on our headsets and we can share computers, and that turns out to be a real good way to get through some of the issues that people have. Um, the online office hours I talked about already. Okay, so they are Monday evenings at 7:30 Central Time. The link that's here is a link that'll take you to just the session and GoToMeeting for those online office hours for our course. Um, Description of the course: it's an introduction to XML technologies and tools with a special emphasis on XML applications of greatest interest to the LIS community. Historically, the people who have taken this course are working on their LIS degree. Now, increasingly, as we bring in people at the master's level who are working on a master's in information science and technology, there may be people who come in who are interested in some of the LIS applications, but maybe have an interest in other applications as well. And if it turns out that you're one of those people, I can certainly help you explore. Certainly, a large number of the applications that we do explore are of interest to both communities. But if you would like to be able to explore some other things, we can talk about that. Students will learn to author XML documents, to design content models for XML applications, to author W3C XML schemas, and to validate XML documents using schemas. Learn to design and code XML transformation using XSLT and XPath. Create web documents using XHTML and CSS. That's what you're going to do on your first assignment, actually. And also high quality print documents using XSLFO. So there is a way to transform these XML content documents into high quality print documents. Finally, students will learn to use XQuery as a means of exploring a collection of XML documents. Okay, there is a proof of concept project, a final project in which you get to explore a predefined XML schema, an XML tag set that's been defined for some area of interest to you. In particular, for most people in the course, it's the ones that have to do with the library and information science world, but we can have you explore others as well. So, textbooks. Harold and Means is XML in a nutshell. I love this book. I've been teaching out of this book since I started to teach XML. It's a little bit long of tooth, but it's as good a book today as it was then, and it's really an important one to have around. The second one by Michael Kay, the XSLT and XPath 2.0 Programmer's Reference, is a kind of the XSLT and XPath Bible. Michael Kay is very highly regarded. He's been the chairman at various points of the standards group that defined XSLT and XPath. He's the designer and the developer of the major XSLT processing engine. It's the one that we're going to use in the course. And although there's a lot more information in this book than we're going to use in the course, it's something you definitely want to have on your bookshelf. And the last book is by two of my colleagues at the University of Illinois. Tim Cole and MK Han, and they're introducing us to XML generally and to the parts of it of particular interest for catalogers and metadata librarians. And I've decided to require this book because so many students, I had it on the recommended, the optional text for so long, and so many people were telling me that they were using it and getting a lot of value out of it. So I brought it more formally into the course. Baca and Miller are kind of interesting other books you may want to look at. Um, the Baca is actually available online at the J. Paul Getty Trust. The Miller book is accessible through the UWM library. We've had just a couple of articles that we're talking about to get us kind of started about um, uh, XML in the library science world. There, a couple of them are getting kind of old, but the fact is that XML is so pervasive in the LIS world that the people are not writing about it per se. It's just part of the landscape. So a lot of the articles that are appropriate for us are early articles. So we come in there, we have a list of topics that we're going to cover. All right. And let's see, we get to know what XML is and how it's used. And then we start to code and design XML documents. We learn about schemas, and we learn how to create an XML schema. Somewhere in there, we begin to talk about a series of XML applications or tag sets that are of interest in the LIS world. And those are peppered through the rest of the topics, EAD, EPUB, mods, TEI, METS, DocBook. Got a couple of more, Mark XML, DITA, CDWA. Okay, so we go through all of those, and you've got readings on each of those, and those are all things that I'm suggesting to you as potential topic areas for your final project. Those are all associated with standard schemas. They're all of interest to the LIS world, and so you could pick one of those to do your project on. You could pick another standard schema before you pick it and get to work on it. Check it out with me to make sure we have the right understanding of what we mean by standard schema. Okay, the other things we talk about after we learn about schemas, we learn about one of the things that is kind of interesting is I tried to draw the distinction between the XML that's used for data interchange and the XML that's used for publishing. And the XML that's used for data interchange is probably pretty applicable to things like EAD, mods, METs, those kinds of things. The XML that is geared towards publishing is really geared towards other standards that we cover, like a TEI, like DocBook, like DITA. So we're really covering both of those things in the course. We're going to learn about using entities and using XInclude. We're going to learn about transforming a document with XSLT. We're going to learn about transforming it to turn it into a web page with XHTML, and we're going to learn about turning it into a high quality print document using XSLFO. And then we finish up with a little bit of XQuery, which is a lot of fun. So that's what we're covering in the course, and we cover it in pretty much the order that it shows here in the list of course topics. Let's look at the outcomes that we'd like. We'd like you to be able to author an XML content document that is valid and well-formed. We're going to learn about what those things are pretty soon, valid and well-formed. Design and code an XML document schema using the W3C XML schema language. Validate content in an XML document with schemas. Design and code XML transformation programs using XSLT and XPath. That is a really powerful little coding language that we use to transform documents. Typically, we turn content-oriented XML documents into either web pages or high-quality print documents. Generate well-formed web documents using XSLT. Generate high-quality print documents using XSLT. Analyze a collection of XML content documents using XQuery. Identify significant XML applications of interest to the LIS community. And plan and conduct a proof of concept project using XML technologies and an XML application of interest to the LIS community. Now, if it turns out that you're not part of the LIS community and you want to go explore something else, again, pick an XML application based upon a standard schema, and let's talk about it. Make sure it's the right kind of thing. Most times it turns out that it is. Instructional methods, we've got readings, we've got recorded lectures like this, and demonstrations, i.e. tutorials. We have discussions in the D2L forums. Okay, I try not to overdo that because I want to supplement it with the online office hours, which we do via GoToMeeting. And then, of course, the big thing, the planning and execution of an individual proof of concept project. The fact is that there's no learning experience quite like this. Once you do this project and you've learned how to use a new XML application and you've done a proof of concept project on it, you can pick any other XML application and you'll have a pretty good idea about how to go learn about that and get that done. There's the old saw about give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, and teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. And of course, we're talking about a man there, so a certain amount of sexism, and perhaps there are religious overtones, and perhaps that's perhaps we shouldn't be going there. But having apologized for the metaphor on 2 or 3 grounds, I just want to say that what we're really trying to do here is to teach you to fish. So when you've done this proof of concept project, you'll know how to go do pretty much anything else with XML. You have to go out and you have to learn it, and there's a certain kind of way to go do that, and you'll have already done it. The schedule, there's a link here to the weekly schedule. Okay, so if we click through on that, we'll go to the weekly schedule. That's the one for our course. Looks pretty good. Let's see, what's expected of you? Um, this is pretty time consuming stuff. I'm expecting that you're going to be spending 10 to 15 hours a week on this course. As I always say, how much time it's going to take you depends on and just how facile you are with this kind of stuff. For some people who have already been exposed to these kind of tools, well, it's going to go faster. For some people for whom these things are new, well, it's going to go slower. Okay? Um, there's no getting around that. So we've got readings, we've got recordings. For the most part, these are going to be these um, YouTubes that I put up, of which this is a classic example. There are coding assignments, and so every time we learn a new skill, there's going to be a coding assignment to practice that skill. Now, for each coding assignment, I'm going to give you instructions. I'm going to give you a tutorial video where I show me doing it more typically on a parallel problem, not the same problem that you're going to do, but one like it. Um, and then there's going to be a grading rubric that's going to tell you what things are important to make sure that you get in your solution to make sure you get as good of a grade as you would like to get. Um, those coding assignments are going to be due by the end of the week, which is Sunday night. And then we're going to talk about those again on in our online office hours. Um, One of the things about the coding assignments is that there's a grading deal available for the coding assignments that is this. You, if you hand in your work on time by the week ending deadline, and uh, you make a good faith effort to do all the parts of the assignment, not just one part, and you follow the directions, as in what files to hand in and what to name them and how to zip them up and all those kinds of things, then you're guaranteed to get an 85 or more if you do better than that. If you turn them in late, or if you don't do them the right way, or don't make a good faith effort, then you're guaranteed to get an 84 or less. What I want everybody to do is to make a really good faith effort to do this before they see the solution. There's a major difference between doing this when you've already seen the solution and finding your way to it. Because that's what we're trying to do. Again, we're trying to teach you to fish, not how to eat fish, right? So if you've already seen the solution, well, you know, it's a tasty morsel, but you haven't really fully cooked it yourself. Okay, and mixing metaphors there in a horrible way, so I think it's probably best for all of us that I stop going down that path. Okay, so the goal is for you to get that done by Sunday night. Um, so we can go over. Um, we can go over the the solution when we get together on online office hours. And I just want to point out, in online office hours, we can also talk about any questions that you have about the assignment for the current week or even the week after. I mean, I'll have them all posted up there for a while, and there might be a person or two who wants to jump ahead. But I could, I'm certainly willing to talk about all kinds of, well, how do you do this, and why are we doing it this way, and what are you really looking for kinds of issues in online office hours. It's not going to be limited to reviewing the assignment that was just due, although it will include that. So let's look at participation. We have the introduce yourself forum, okay, in which I want you to post 200 to 300 words to introduce yourself. And if you look in the weekly schedule, there's some guidelines about what we're looking for. And then we have a final project forum that goes from week 1 to 15. I think it actually goes a little bit shorter than that. What we've got is we have all of these topics that that I talked about that are going to represent potential subjects for your final project. Now, each week we're going to be doing a couple of those, and I'm going to want you to, there's going to be some readings that I want everybody to do. They're going to be on the required readings, okay? That'll give you everybody a general orientation in that. If you want to go further, we've got other resources for you to go explore, and then of course you can find further resources of your own. So for 3 of these application areas that might be things that you're going to do for a final project, I want you to put together a substantial post. Okay? And what I want to know is I'd like you to summarize what this application's all about and why it's appealing. Why would it be for you the subject of your final project? Now, that might mean that there be some weeks in which nobody posts. Now, I still want you to do the required readings, but I don't want you to have to post every week for posting's sake. Okay? Now, I'm going to expect us all to respond appropriately to the posts that people put into the forum. Okay? Now, do you have to have a response to every post that's made? No. But what am I going to do? Well, when I'm figuring out your participation, I'm going to give a certain amount of credit for the posts themselves and a certain amount of credit for appropriate substantive responses. And so it's worth your while to respond, although if you don't get to respond in a particular week, well, that'll all come out in the end formula. It says here every Tuesday evening we're going to have online office hours, and that was from last semester, because we're doing it every Monday evening, I think. Let's go look up here. Is that true? Let me look. Every Monday evening we're going to have online office hours, so that's a typo. I'll have to get that fixed. Sorry about that, guys. There's always something that you think you fixed. Then we've got the final project. So here's a little bit more about the final project. Each student is expected to plan and conduct a proof of concept project using XML technology. Detailed instructions and a grading rubric will be published separately. They'll be up before too long. Here are some highlights, though. It has to be based on a standard XML schema rather than a custom schema that you design. Now, we're going to learn how to design our own custom schemas for XML tag sets, and we'll get enough experience doing that during the practice that we're not practicing that more on our project. The other thing you need to do is how to work with the standard schemas that other people have already created. So that's what the project is about. You'll be expected to mark up enough content using the chosen standard schema to provide a proof of concept. Students will be expected to identify a standard XML-based means of publishing the content. You may pick a standard for which there are already XSLT transformations to publish it. So for instance, if you pick DocBook or TEI, there are already transformations provided with Oxygen that would allow you to publish it. Okay? You might pick some other schema that you're more interested in, which means you'd have to write an XSLT transformation yourself. So there has to be a way to transform it into user consumable format in something like a web page or a PDF. And if it's already available from another party, you can use it. Otherwise, you need to create it. And the deliverables of the project will include marked up content, code, and a written project report. Code will be expected to be testable. As part of the project report, the student will provide instructions for testing the code. Now, I've got to tell you, these final projects have been a lot of fun for me. This is, I think, the fourth time I'm teaching this class at UWM, and the projects have just been a lot of fun. I think they've been fun for people to do. They've been fun for me to see and grade and learn about. And I have high expectations because I want to have some fun. I want you to have some fun too. We've had a lot of good fun in this class. The grading. Okay, so the coding assignments, we've got a good 12 or so of them. They're 45% of the grade. So there's a lot of work there. There's a lot of percent of the grade. The final project, another 45% of the grade, of which 35% is just going to be the code itself. And 10 is going to be the project report that comes with the code. And of course, your participation is going to count for 10% as well. On top of that, let's see, I have a table here for translating number grades into letter grades. I got this from my colleagues when I came to work at UWM 3 years ago, and I didn't invent this. Pretty much, this is what I think most people follow. And last but not least, we have a list of UWM and SOAS academic policies. On one hand, they're boilerplate. These are the same in all the courses that and in the syllabus for all the courses that I teach. And they should be pretty much the same as in the rest of your courses. So that makes them ordinary. On the other hand, they're very important things. So if you don't understand each of these things, please take the time to read them. They have to do with policies, students with disabilities, religious observances, being called to active military duty, students who would like to get incompletes in the course. I just want to point out that it's much harder to get an incomplete at UWM than it is at a lot of schools. So you can't just assume that an incomplete's available. You have to understand it. Discriminatory conduct such as sexual harassment. We want this to be a safe and respectful place for you to work at learning. So we've got some pretty important expectations there. Academic misconduct. We've got some important expectations there. Complaint opportunities or grade appeal procedure opportunities. We've got those. So again, this is pretty standard stuff, but it's important stuff. And if you need help understanding this or in getting help with it, I'm here and my colleagues are here to help you. So that's it. I'm expecting this to be a fun course. I love this stuff. I'm hoping that by the end of the course, you will too. And I have a lot of fun teaching it, and I hope you have a lot of fun participating. I'm looking forward to meeting each of you. Please drop by online office hours. I'd love to talk to you guys during online office hours. And having said all that, I'm going to say bye until next time. So bye-bye.